Hello everyone and welcome to the table. So today we're checking out a brand new knife, and this one is coming to us from Oknife. This is the Xen OAL. And so you may recall this knife from a few months ago when all the big boy YouTubers got their test samples to check out on camera. And I purposely avoided watching all of those videos because I wanted my reactions and first impressions to be genuine. And so I was one of the lowly Kickstarter backers who had to wait until February 2025 to get their hands on this knife right here. But really, what really drew me to this knife was the, of course, name of the designer. This is a Ken Onion design. Kershaw, CRKT, a lot of other companies have used his designs for production models, in addition to, of course, his custom knives that he makes. And so this is very much in the vein of one of his designs. A lot of familiar design choices here, and we'll see some other Ken Onion knives on the table in a few minutes. But really what they did here is Oknife took a lot of premium materials, and I think one of the things they're really trying to push here, besides the Ken Onion name, is the fact that we have an aluminum frame lock, and they call this their super aluminum. So what is super aluminum? I think it's just essentially a variant of like a 70-75 aluminum, just a very hard, durable aluminum that's not going to be too out of place on a folding pocket knife. And so where it's going to make a difference is that it has the structural rigidity so that you can have it for a frame lock. It's not going to show wear and tear as much as an aluminum handle on any other knife might. And so I think that's a really big bonus if you're going to buy an aluminum handle knife. But that being said, being a frame lock made out of aluminum, it's also meaning this knife, despite its size, it's going to be really, really lightweight. So it doesn't weigh a whole lot for what it is. And that's actually kind of impressive. The first thing in hand that you notice is not only how solid it feels, but that it's really, really lightweight. So again, this is a frame lock folder, aluminum scales, and the construction is actually kind of cool because if we look inside the aluminum there, you can see they did mill out the aluminum scales on the interior for every little bit of, weight savings on this knife. And so checking out the weight, comes in pretty light. You can definitely feel it in hand, but I think we're like at 2.5 ounces. So very lightweight knife for what we're getting here. And looking at the size of the Xen, checking out blade length right there, we can see our blade length is about 3¼ inches and the overall length about 7½ inches long. So we're getting, larger than a 3-inch blade, but less than 3 ounces. So 2½ ounces for that is pretty impressive. And everything else, they did really, went all out on this model. In my opinion, they did a lot of things right here. So being a Ken Onion design, let's check out that blade. We have this nice upswept sheep's foot blade. So I think they call it like a modified sheep's foot, but comes down like that. Almost looks like a reverse tanto. And steel right there, check it out. The tiny microscopic text, CPM S35 VN, or is it S45? Oh my gosh, I can barely read it. So yeah. S45 VN. I should know that. For some reason, I had S35 VN on my brain. Again, text on this side just has the name, and I do like the fonts they went with. It's kind of classy looking, not too large, very subdued. So that's a cool thing. Our handles are this greenish aluminum, and we have the red coloration on the backspacer and the pivot collar. So it's a red and green color thing. So not quite Christmas colors, but we're getting close. And it's kind of an odd combo choice for a pocket knife, I'll admit, but it is what it is. So the aluminum handles, very grippy. This texture, this checkering right here feels really good. So even in summer, your hands are sweaty, your hands are wet, I don't think you're going to really have any issues holding this knife in your hands. And that's honestly pretty nice. Our centering is really perfect, so no issues there because the knife runs on bearings. The action is predictably good, has thumb studs and a flipper. Flipper has great jimping on there, so really no issues with flipping the knife. Even on the opposite hand, it's still pretty good in hand. Our thumb studs as well do flick out nice and smoothly. Left-handed, let's see if I can do it. Oh, there we go. And you'll notice like on many pocket knives, the left-handed thumb stud has slightly more access to it than the right hand has slightly more access than the left-hand side, just because of the way the lock bar is built in there. And looking at the pocket clip is actually a pretty nice design. It is a matte black finish, Oknife logo on there, deep carry, and you can see it's perfectly flush. The screws in there do not project out of the handle at all. And again, about the design, the really only downside to this pocket clip design is you can see it's not going to be reversible. It's going to be right-hand side, tip up, carry only. And I think that's more of an aesthetics thing because that means the front side, the show side of the knife just has these clean lines. And the lines are, it looks cool. You can see that there's this line going down the handle into the pivot area right here. Looks kind of like Space Age or something. I don't know if that's what they were going for, but it does look really good. And so the aesthetics on this one, they really nailed it. I think the black version is going to look pretty good as well. And again, what we have on this handle in terms of hardware, we do have T6 screws on the body here. So I think all of these ones here, T6, T6, T6 for the pocket clip, T6 for the lock bar insert, and we have a T8 for our pivots. And so what's interesting is we don't have any really decorative pivot on the show side here. We just have the T8 bit, and it's on both sides. So you might worry, did they fall for the classic blunder of a spinning pivot? And I'm here to happily report they did not. So you can easily loosen or tighten either side of the pivot, and they both spin easily, and they can be tightened or loosened as you see fit to get the action just right. I'm still very confident that they used Kaiser to OEM this knife. So this definitely, if it doesn't feel like a Kaiser, the packaging absolutely screams Kaiser, which we'll see in a minute. But what they did here, again, this is the Kickstarter variant. So I imagine one of the first runs of this knife. So I can't guarantee they're all going to be packaged like this, but we have our black box, standard box. And we did get an extra lanyard that was included, and there's a lanyard bead built in there. I haven't opened it yet, but you can see there's just an OAL, like a bird on there with the logo, which actually looks pretty cool. And this side has like a dragon theme right there, which is awesome with some OD green paracord. That's pretty cool. O-knives, of course, quite a few of them. Sadly, not all of them, but quite a few of them come with a coin. So we have the logo on one side and the knife model on the other. Xen Onion design, Xen OAL. So it's always a nice little freebie they throw in. So that came in the box. And we also have just some extra hardware, extra screws. So you lose a screw strips out. You do have some replacements right here on hand. And of course, we know this is a Kaiser knife because if you've ever opened a Kaiser, you probably recognize this little doodad right here. We just have the cleaning cloth and the paperwork in there. So again, that is something to note. I will say, for a knife that they're, calling a premium knife, they did not include one of the O-knife pouches. So not really a huge downside, but it's one of those things. All the other O-knives have the little zipper pouch, and for the expensive knife, we don't have that. So maybe they'll change that in future runs of the Xen. But at least for this first run straight from the Kickstarter campaign, that's a no-go. That's a no-go. But beyond that, I do have a few other Xen Onion knives we can compare. And these are more of a family comparison, less than a size comparison, because, of course, this is 7.5 inches of overall length. But you may recognize the Kershaw Leak. This is also a Xen Onion design. So we can kind of see we have this upswept blade, that recurve blade on here. And we're getting something very similar with the Leak. And we also have a CRKT. This is, I think, the Swindle. The Swindle. And so this is also a Xen Onion design, but we're getting, again, that very upswept blade right there, very organic lines. And so we see maybe a small smidge of family resemblance here. And you really do appreciate how lightweight this knife is, the frame lock aluminum, compared to like the Swindle right here. This is a steel frame lock, and it's significantly, even though it's still a sleek knife, it's significantly heavier than the Xen is. So when it comes down to it, I paid for this on Kickstarter, $120. And I bought that, of course, many months ago. Current retail price I see on the O-Knife website is $189 for this knife. So in my opinion, if that's what they intend to sell this for, there's a lot of competition at that price. $120, I'd buy this every day, because for what you're getting, it's an extreme value with the Super Steel, the S45, the aluminum frame lock with the very lightweight action, the pedigree that comes with having a Xen Onion design. $120 all day, every day. $189. Let's wait till it goes on sale. But beyond that, I mean, there's nothing that can really fault unless you're left-handed because you don't have the left-handed pocket clip. The thumb stud axis on the left-hand side is slightly recessed, but if those things don't affect you or bother you, then I think this knife is really a good pickup. Very handsome looking blade, not too many downsides. So if you have any comments or questions, feel free to drop one below. Would love to hear what you think about the OKnife Xen now in 2025. Have a nice day, everyone.